Well, good morning, MCC Albuquerque. It is good to be with you today. I want to also follow with Paul in just wishing you a 51st birthday as a denomination. This has been an amazing work. On this day in 1968, Troy Perry sat with 12 others in a home in Los Angeles and birthed this church. Daring to birth a church, a Christian church that loved everyone and embraces all. And so I thank you for continuing this incredible ministry that has been responsible for bringing an inclusive love into the lives of millions of people, including mine. And I first heard the words, "God loves me as I am," right here at MCC Albuquerque in 1979, actually when the congregation was meeting in the Quaker's Friends house on Girard Street. Was anybody else in that room when I came in? One. Amazing. But I want to offer, I'm so glad that all of you are here to continue this work in the world. What I know today is that none of my life journey would have been possible without hearing those words. God loves you just as you are. Yes. Always. Forever and ever. This love that MCC Albuquerque made me aware of continues to serve as the foundation and purpose of my life. So I thank you. I thank you, MCC, for being here. Your ministry changed my life. And the love you shared and modeled for me, I continue to pass on in everything I do in my life to others. But what I've learned since 1979 is that Jesus was right on, still right on, about this inclusive, unconditional love that he modeled and that he taught. It is this kind of love that every single human being desires. They may not know it, but they do. It is this love that we know deep in the marrow of our own bones that is a joy for us if we experience it, and it is the deepest sorrow when we do not. In these difficult times, these are difficult times, right? Deep in the marrow of our own bones, we know that it seems that all the forces of non-love, of separation, division, and negativity are once again tearing at the fabric of the oneness and the love that Jesus called us to live out in our lives. You have experienced this recently as a church community with repetitive break-ins in your church home, yes, for which I am deeply sorry for you. You have every right to be justifiably angry, sad, and afraid if you are. It is scary to experience the physical, emotional, and psychological harm that hate crimes creates in our life experience. And this intention of those who committed these crimes is that you will feel so unsafe here that you won't come here anymore. That the doors of this church would close would be their desire. And that all of us would go back into our isolated closets. Well, thank you. Yes, not happening. That's what they want. And yet, as hard as it can be, we must stand strong now. Amen. We must stand strong, arm in arm. We must continue to do this work of love, as it is the only solution to difficult times. These church doors must remain open.
Amen.
Difficult times have so many of us screaming for love in this world. In the Course in Miracles, it tells us that when we're in fear is really a call for love. So in any moment we're in fear or anger, remember, all we need is love. Get back to love. Our planet's environment is screaming for love. Did you notice that? Immigrants are screaming for love. Sexually abused men and women are screaming for love. Black lives are screaming for love. Trans and LGBTQ lives are still screaming for love. Poor people are screaming for love. Physically challenged people are screaming for love. The chronically ill are screaming for love. Abused children are screaming for love. The Constitution and democracy of these United States is screaming for love. Amen. And our support. We are the ones that must stand.
That's right.
It can be very hard to do this work of love in difficult times. Yet when we know that people do acts of hate because they are afraid, that's why they do them. They are afraid because they have not known the love that you or I know. The only solution is us upping our commitment to love, even more so. Every single day. That love that Jesus talked about has got to be modeled and has to be lived out in work, at play, at home, in this church.
That's right.
So today, even if we're in fear or angry, remember, the only solution, there's only one, is to do what?
Love.
There you go. Amen. So this week and next, that's what we're going to do. We are going to talk about getting back to love, the basics of our faith, one another. Loving your neighbor 101. Back to the basics. What I've learned about this love that Jesus talked about, it's a relational love. I can't have this love by myself. Did you notice that? You can't have that love by yourself. It requires the presence and the participation of at least one other person who wants that same love. Love is generated into our relationships with one another. We know love or not based on our experiencing of our relationships. That's how we know it. Love's a group project. Always a group project. Jesus carried out his ministry in a group. Did you notice that?
Yes.
He was in regular fellowship with the disciples. He told them to go and minister in twos, never alone.
Right.
Never alone. Early followers of Jesus gathered regularly in homes. In the Christian scriptures, there's so many calls for one anothering. There's the root call to love one another. Then we're told if we love one another, we'll do certain things. It says we will pray for one another. We will care for one another. We will bear one another's burdens.
That's right.
We will encourage and build one another up. We will submit to one another, and we will admonish one another. Oh yes, sometimes we need to be admonished. And we will spur one another toward love and good deeds. Loving and being loved are the end goals of every human life journey. Most of us look at our lives to find and develop the relationships where we can experience the unconditional love that Jesus talked about. Every person, no matter their faith, tradition, their gender, their socioeconomic status, their ethnicity, their sexual orientation, their nationality, their physical, emotional, or their mental capacities, is doing what they are doing, skillfully or not, because they believe that doing that will let them know love in bigger and better ways. And what I've learned is that without love, this life is not worth living. It is not worth living. In 2014, I was on a vacation in Hawaii. Beautiful place. And I was enjoying a morning cup of coffee and doing a puzzle, something I do on vacation. When out of nowhere, a searing pain, shock, started in the location of my right ear, went up to my right eye, went the entire right side of my head and down my neck, through my jaw and the right side of my face. And it causes me to look something like, and it happens. After 2 years of that, felt pain, I finally learned that I was experiencing a condition called trigeminal neuralgia. It's known as the suicide disease. As many people don't choose to live with this condition because the pain is so awful. And nothing worked that Western medicine had to offer. No drugs, even brain surgery. 2 days before I was planning to stop eating and drinking, a friend, concerned that I might really do that, knew a friend who knew somebody who could help me. And that was a doctor locally here, a neuroacupuncturist. And I went in there for the first time, and my pain dropped from 11:20 to 2 in 30 minutes. My friend Jean Hester was in the room with me that day. And I wailed with the relief that I could have something to ease the pain. And it didn't take away the condition, I still have it. But it helps me, and those charges keeping them away and at bay with these neuroacupuncture treatments, keep me here. And I'm here today because the love of my friend got me to a doctor.
Amen.
The love of my friend, not me. It is those treatments that made it possible for me to preach again. By the way, I'm talking and speaking in public today for the first time in 5 years. And I'm honored to do it with you. People who know how bad trigeminal neuralgia can be ask me, how have you been able to live and deal with this level of pain? And my answer is, I am loved. Amen. I am loved. I'm loved unconditionally by my wife Paula, who's here today with us, who's been with me on my side in and through whatever's been brought our way because of this condition. And secondly, I am loved by very gracious and giving friends and neighbors, some of which are here today. I live and have my being because of the love of so many people in my life. These people are Jesus to me. And I'm deeply and eternally grateful to them. You know, I have a couple of pieces of art in a room in my home by Brian Andreas, who does these story people. You might have seen him, I know, at the Albuquerque airport. He used to have his stuff there a lot. But one of the pieces I have says, I promise you, not a moment will be lost, as long as I have a heart and a voice to speak. And we will walk together again and again with 1,000 others and 1,000 more, on and on until there is no one among us, no one who does not know the truth. There is no future without love. Amen. Jesus knew this truth. Love is the bottom line. Yet embodying this love that Jesus talked about requires action from us, doesn't it? It's not enough to come here and listen to me or Reverend Judy talk about love. It is not enough. It takes partnership, tenacity, taking responsibility, and having a willingness to be held accountable for our actions. We have to consciously participate, and we have to have a plan to grow and develop our capacities to love. In James Fowler's book called Stages of Faith, the book I read early in my ministry, he describes 6 stages of faith development that every human being goes through, no matter their faith tradition. And as we move through every stage of faith, we learn that our experience of love and our definition of love changes. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed? It changes. We grow into love. We don't just have it. Because we have to learn about it. What I thought was love as a child is not the same love I learned and knew as a teenager. It was very different. And what I knew about love as a young adult is not the same love I know today as a more mature adult. And I'm still growing. I still have more to learn. don't just get love because we hook up with someone we can't. Have you known that? It's a nice thing. We may feel a limerent physical kind of love that encourages us initially to get together. You know, that dopamine and serotonin rush is pretty good. But a love dependent on any kind of chemical rush will fade quickly.
That's right.
Quickly. If we don't grow in our capacity to develop loving relation with one another as we go through the day, from when we get up in the morning to when we close our eyes at night. We have to learn how to love in every life situation. So today I'm going to leave you, we're going to get to more next week, but I'm going to leave you with one practice today, a critical love practice to use especially when you're in fear or anger this week. I'd like you to do this. The first love practice I'm going to invite you into is to take others into consideration this week before you make a decision or action that affects their life. Don't just do things to people. Do it with them. Take the time to be with them. Because you see, every decision you or I make leads to an action that then affects or impacts somebody else. It goes somewhere, what we do. So most people take actions, you notice most people take actions without asking for the input of other people? And then what do? Ask for forgiveness later. Some people make a practice out of that. It's not a loving behavior. So, I'll give you an example, just in case this applies to you. Early in our relationship, Paula and I, we would both make commitments for our other without asking them first. As you know, that actually created some calendar conflicts. A lot of upset for her friends and my friends. And we had this, it just didn't work. And it actually created resentment, distrust, and not wanting to be close to each other. Right? But we loved each other, and we solved it because we sat down and we talked with each other. We talked. We said, hey, this don't work. What's up for you? What's up for you? And we shared our feelings and our thoughts about what we could do differently so that we could feel love. And what we agreed to do is that from then on, we would tell the person that thank them for giving us the invitation, and then we would say, but I can't say yes yet because I got to go home and check, and then I'll get back to you. Amen. And that did amazing things for our relationship. It was amazing, just by having a shared understanding of how we could do life together that would bless both of us and hold us both in a place of connection and care. So this week I want you to consider making decisions yourself, taking actions that will affect others. First, make a list of who's going to be affected. Think, who's going to be affected if I take this action today? And then I want you to go talk to every single person on your list and ask their opinion. Ask their idea about what you're thinking. Say, how would that affect you? And then you can go back and take an action, taking that into consideration so you don't piss anybody off because of what you do. Right? You can actually love people, but you have to do it up front before you take an action. You have to make the space for the time to care and to love. If you're a boss at work this week, instead of dictating orders to employees, how many bosses are in here? Who supervises people? All right. This is for you. Instead of dictating orders for your employees to follow this week, include them in the decision-making process on the front end. Let them help you create the plans that will impact them. People will go to great lengths to work hard, even work without additional pay for a boss that includes them in the planning process. If you lead a particular ministry team here at this church, do the same thing. Ask your team members, ask your minister, talk to the leaders here, your board. Take their ideas into consideration before you take an action. People are much more willing to help if they had a say. You know, I used to go and what I did after pastoring MCC Austin, Texas, I became an organizational development consultant. I went to a lot of MCC churches. And one of the biggest things they brought me in for was their money was down and they didn't have enough people to help them do the work of the church. All I taught them was to do what I just told you. Involve people in making the decisions before they are made. And it's amazing that inclusion, the love you feel when people respect you like that and care for you is amazing. So do that this week. Our first love practice, consideration of others. I'll give you a few next week, and I look forward to hearing how it worked for you this week. I'll close today with just one quote. Anybody seen the movie The Matrix? Ever? I love that movie. Because all the very clear choices, right? The red pill, the blue pill. All right? Which one are you going to swallow? Right? And then, even though Neo swallowed the pill he swallowed, Morpheus, his mentor, says to him, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. Amen. All right. So you walk it this week. And may we walk this path of love this week, following the footsteps of Jesus in everything we think and say and do. Amen. Amen.